The August 1st, 2022 special council meeting is now called to order. We'll start with a moment of reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a light agenda here tonight. We have no minutes to approve, and nor do we have any communications, petitions, or awards, or a public hearing. And what I'd like to do at this time is jump down to action item B, which is boards and commission appointments and oath. Mr. Wendt.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. On the screen, I've got the applicants for the various boards and commission appointments to be made by council. If council sees it fit, I would request that you issue an appointment for these individuals and then administer the oath of office for those who will join the Planning Commission and also the Board of Zoning Appeals. Although Mr. Dave Arnold's name is not on the screen, he was appointed at the last council meeting, and I'd ask that his oath be administered today as well.
And council can vote by acclamation if they so choose. Have a motion?
Your Honor, I'll move to approve the boards and commissions appointments per the memo.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Follick and a second by Councilwoman Farsh to approve the boards and commission appointments and oaths. So congratulations. We got to call the roll first, but go right ahead, Mr. Wendt.
Councilmember Woods,
Yes.
Councilmember Blakesley,
Yes.
Councilmember Follick,
Yes.
Councilmember Farst,
Yes.
Councilmember Ehlers. Vice Mayor Lewis is absent today, and Mayor Herbst.
Yes, and the motion passes 6-0. So at this time, if I could have the BZA members Mike Johnson and Dan Faulkner, and Planning Commission representatives Kevin Keeley and David Arnold step to the podium up here where we'll make the oath of office. Where do you want us to do that?
All men.
Kevin Keeley, he's the one that has
Raise
the
your right
party
hand.
going.
Repeat after me. I
Is Nick City Council?
solemnly swear or affirm
Nick Council?
solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution
the Constitution
and will obey the laws
and obey the laws
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Ohio,
and the state of Ohio,
that I will,
that I will,
in all respects,
in all respects,
observe the provisions of the Charter
observe the provisions of the Charter
and ordinances
and ordinances
of the city of Vandalia,
of the city of Vandalia,
and will faithfully discharge
and will faithfully discharge
the duties associated with this position
the duties associated with this position
that I am undertaking.
that I am undertaking.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
We certainly appreciate everyone that applies for these boards and especially the seats that they take care, because it does help out the city tremendously. Okay. All right, and that brings us to comments from interested citizens. So if anyone would like to make a comment, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and your comments. I would like to ask, just as we did last meeting, that if anyone wants to speak, please make your points as very clear as you can. We have plenty of documentation from the previous meeting minutes, so everything that everyone has already said has been recorded and documented, but we want to give you an opportunity to say anything else that you want to add to this. And we'd also like to ask that you only speak one time to give everyone a chance. All right? Who wants to go first?
Tom Grace. Ten 400 North Castle Road. I'm working on this. You're right, you have lots of evidence, lots of documents. I expect that we will be submitting more in the coming weeks. Of particular note to council are the schedulings for the meetings. Just want to bring some things to your attention. There was a lot of confusion as to the date, or not the date, but the time of this meeting. The standard time frame for council meetings is 7 o'clock, as is stated on the city's webpage. 7 p.m. on the first and third Mondays of the month. We understand that summer schedule is somewhat different. The council's calendar indicates this meeting being at 6:30. And then the meeting agenda reflected 6 o'clock. So we did contact the city manager's office this morning to provide clarification for that, but just for your awareness, because I don't know that you were, you guys had 3 different potential times listed for the meeting. In reviewing past meeting minutes, particularly the Planning Commission meetings minutes from June 28th, they appear to still be draft form, but there are specific things that are currently missing that we believe need to be assured that they're be included. Included in that are my letter and supporting documentation, and the Planning Commission vote is not noted in those minutes. Those minutes that are online currently do reflect staff's position, but they do not reflect the vote of the Planning Commission. And those need to be included, and I would argue should have been included before the meetings, before the minutes were posted on the website. It gives a, I believe it gives a misrepresentation of the meeting. But I'm assuming that as draft, those will be finalized and corrected. Appreciate the opportunity to give citizens the chance to speak, and I will keep it short. The citizens have continued to formulate their coalition. We'll be back in 2 weeks for the planning meeting see what Ambrose has to plan. We will be back on the 6th of September for the vote. I would expect significantly larger crowds for those 2 meetings. We do request that you let us know, and I will be making regular inquiries to the city manager's office when the studies from Ambrose are available. As of my call last week, which I believe was Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday, the city manager's office had not received the reports, the studies for Ambrose. And given the fact that there are changes to their plans, I assume there will be changes to the studies. I question whether they have allowed council and staff sufficient time to actually review those in the detail in which they should be reviewed and considered whether or not they're truly accurate or whether they reflect a lesser standard for impacts. We've consistently commented that the impacts that are listed address one warehouse, not the complex. I think when you're looking at the infrastructure, you're looking at roadways, you're looking at those sorts of things, it would be naive to only consider the one warehouse and not the entire structure. That's just a common sense thing. And I believe that it is well within your right to expect that of Ambrose. The charter gives the council a lot of power. You have a lot of authority between the charter and the zoning code. I encourage you to use it to make sure that what you choose to accept is an acceptable thing long-term. The plans that they've got, all the plans I've seen in the drawing-wise have subject to change on them. Most of the plans that I've seen in the descriptions have been very incomplete and tentative. And I believe the council deserves better. I believe the citizens, staff deserves better, citizens deserve better. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Tom, and you are correct that, as far as I know, we've not received any more information from them, and staff will be reviewing those plans, and council will not be rushed into making any type of adjustments or anything like that.
Thank you.
All right.
Good evening, council. First of all, I would like to thank the people.
Can you state your name and address,
I'm
please, for the
sorry,
record?
Donald Hutchison, 1058 Bristol Drive. First of all, I'd like to thank very much the people who got swore in tonight for these commissions, and hope that they have the wisdom and the understanding to deal with the issues that, as I spoke last time, that we need to be proactive, not reactive, and that they have the insight to see what's coming and how it could affect very much the people down the road. I wanted to talk about, I know it's not on the agenda tonight, that council needs to understand the resolve of the people who are dealing with the issue of the warehouses. Many people that I've spoke with, when this, if it ends up going towards the people who want this building, which apparently they don't put much basis in our resolve because they're already asking to have you guys approve a second building. Apparently they don't understand. I see my Vandalia fellow citizens being possibly arrested in protest at the access to these buildings. I don't think that they understand just how near and dear this issue is to the people that are going to be affected by it. In this comprehensive plan, which I understand, I've been going over it and over it and over it, and I'm going to keep going over it. I'm being told that it really, and maybe you can answer if this is a true statement, that it has no bearing. A lot of statements in here through land use and other things talk about working closely with the Dayton Airport, as if they are the ones who control our lives. In a sense, they do. I spoke the other day about the semis, and my goodness, I wanted to go to Kroger's, made the mistake of going Saturday afternoon, and I got hung up down back on Castle Road, and took me over a half an hour to get there, over to Frost Road and get up. I went to the Kroger's in Troy. There's no way you get nearer to this one here, and I understand why. In this comprehensive plan, there's a statement let me find the ones that I had here. In a land use framework that has distinct neighborhoods, districts, and corridors that complement the existing pattern of the development. Development, employment centers, and industrial districts, Falls Creek, Northwoods Boulevard, that are designed to use natural topography, tree masses, and drainage swells, and man-made features to buffer adjacent residential neighborhoods. I see all kinds of statements in here that talk about working with the people to make it a tree community, such as the signs that come in here, and to encourage the people to keep up their property. I see statements in here about elderly people being assisted by the city to help them maintain their property because of the issues that they run into. To be the kind of a community that everybody wants to live in. And I think that, in closing my statement, that the resolve that you guys might end up having to deal with is, we'll do anything to protect the sanctity of our neighborhood, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hutcherson.
You're welcome.
Appreciate the comments. Anybody else like to speak?
Good afternoon, Council. Dan Martin, 11430 North Castle Road. I got a couple questions about the, first of all, the business that's being, or the warehouse, whatever, that's being built at the end of, I think it's Deer Run, right there at the end of Old Springfield. Maybe everybody else knows. I'm not exactly sure what's going in there. Can somebody give me an idea of what's going in there? Is that a trucking warehouse, or is that?
Do we have any more information?
There's no identified end user at this time. It was
So
always a
it's
speculative
kind of like the
build.
warehouses that Ambrose wants to do. They don't have a per person in mind yet, or
There
what's
is some-
going to go into that?
There hasn't been anything that's been shared with the city, 100%. Nothing has
Can
been,
you
I'll respond to your question completely if I'm able to.
Sorry.
With regard to, and I apologize, Mr. Martin, with regard to the Contegra property on what was Top Notch Court, there hasn't been an announcement or any indication as to what that end user is. With the questions that I think that the city is getting with regard to potential utility usage, I think that points to something that is not purely warehousing and logistics, but I don't have any more information other than that.
Possibly factory maybe or something.
That'd be great, I think.
Okay. Any idea how many truck doors I mean, you guys obviously have probably seen the plans of what's being built there, correct?
We have records from the building department that have been discussed in public meetings and have been exhibits at prior meetings, and so those are publicly available. I just don't have them in front of me right now.
Okay. And then what about the building that's being built over by the airport access road, which is behind Carter Trucking? Is there any, and maybe I'm the only one that doesn't know that, but I don't know what's going on. In fact, I didn't even know anything was going on there, leveling the land there too.
There's no end user
no end
identified
user
there.
too? Okay. So my comment is that those seem to be a little bit better access areas where there's not a whole lot of residential, and it seems to be an area that's maybe zoned a little bit better with that, with Carter Trucking there and everything like that. And it just butts up against the airport access road. My comment is that how many warehouses do we really need here? And that's my question to council is, at some point, isn't there enough? I mean, we're not going to be Dubai. I mean, we want to stay a community, and we want to keep this community, people that live in this community where they've lived their whole lives, 58, 60 years or better. We want to keep that, to where it's a neighborhood, not a warehouse. And so I just would like you to think about that and, say, enough is enough. We have 3 other places, like across from the Airline Dairy, that we don't even know what's going in there. So there's 3 huge complexes that are going in, not to mention all the other stuff going out by Crocs and P&G and stuff like that who knows what's going in out there, because we don't have the control over that. But we as Vandalia, all the trucks come our direction. You know, they use airport access, they use National Road, they use, you know, they're not going to Union, and Union's getting all the taxpayer money. So my feeling is that please think about how much do we need? How much is enough, okay? And I appreciate your time.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
I'm Jesse Peretti. Good evening, Council. I'm Jesse Peretti. I'm at 224 Settlers Trail here in Vandalia, a relatively new citizen, so I'm not that familiar with the council and its operation. And I just want to add one thing. I'm not directly impacted by the proposed warehouses. I'm close by, like anybody else. I'd be impacted by the traffic. But I want to say that I hope the council realizes and takes into consideration that good government often operates for the common good. And I hope you do that. I don't know what that is, but I hope you wisely choose the common good. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Appreciate it.
My name is Marlene Shook, 822 West Hafer Road. Since they've torn down those trees where they're building, we've had a lot more wildlife in our neighborhood. I've seen a couple like red fox that I never saw before. One of my coworkers has seen coyote. I saw a raccoon and deer on the road crossing in front of me. This morning, walking across, I work at Kroger's in Vandalia, and I'll be seeing a lot more trucks, and I see enough of the trucks for it to be every minute. I feel like I've had somebody say, they're gonna run Kroger's out of there. That's the only grocery store in town. I was walking, as I was trying to say, I was walking into my store this morning, and a skunk was walking across the parking lot right in front of me, and I stopped. It walked right beside me, and I just stood still thinking, please don't spray me, because I was going to work. I turned and then walked on, so I was taking big steps. I'm seeing more and more and hearing more and more about the wild animals being ran out because of trees being taken down. It's just sad to see all of them losing their homes, just like things happening and affecting, again, Kroger's, all the customers we have. You think it's Saturday? It'll be every day, and it's going to be, their customers are going to be frustrated. And I heard somebody say, we might even end up closing because of the frustration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, y'all. My name's Mary Davis, 2250 Settlers Trail. And like Jesse, my neighbor, we're relatively new to Vandalia and definitely city government. So I had first got introduced when I saw the red markers going up in the cornfields before the corn started growing past them, and I went to the City of Vandalia website to see what might have been the plan for it. And so I happened upon the kind of strategic plan with the parks and the estate planning with the neighborhoods for that cornfield and other things that were really mission, vision, future-driven plans. So when I found out before the last meeting that no, actually, it's warehouses that are being proposed for that space, and the farmland and the trees, I came to the meeting. And when the topic of the strategic plan versus what the seller is only willing to sell the land for, and the fact that there was discussion that zoning for that entire area hadn't been looked at since like the 90s, I was flabbergasted that I don't know if in this whole strategic plan for the revitalization of parks and neighborhoods, if anybody stopped to go and look at what the zoning is for all those properties, but you came up with a really pretty plan. But if the zoning isn't in place to be able to do those kinds of enhancements, it seems like a big waste of time. So if it's an issue of not having looked at zoning, that we're now looking at warehouses, I just invite council and planning and zoning to look at the other areas in that strategic plan and make sure that something like this can't be pulled out from under the citizens that kind of liked the plan, but was disappointed that, oh, it's just a vision, it's not something that is hard and fast, hence the warehouses. So I would like to hear an update on maybe the Planning Commission look at zoning and report out kind of a strategic plan to look at what update zoning requirements for the land that's available so that we as citizens don't feel kind of duped.
All right. Well, thank you, Mary. Appreciate that.
Hello, Sarah Minch, 4501 Old Springfield Road. This is going to start one place and end someplace else, but I'll try to keep it short. So I went with my 10-year-old to the parade the other day. We always look forward to it. And he, you know, it is the airfare parade. That's what we've always called it. And he said, I can't figure out what this parade is. Is it a parade? It seems like a parade of elderly people in expensive cars. And I am not trying to be sassy. I tried to explain to him this is the airfare parade. You know, we celebrate the airport and we're about to have the air show. And really, there weren't a ton of airplanes or themed themes going on. And I'm only bringing that up because it's just like the town wants to rally around the air show. People love the air show. Some people don't, but a lot of residents really like the air show, and they want something to rally behind and celebrate Vandalia and celebrate our community. And it just feels like with every warehouse and with every one of these big businesses that goes in, it's like a depersonalization of the community. And like that is starting to show, I think. Like I've been to a bunch of these parades and I always enjoyed them. And this one I enjoyed because I liked seeing everyone out. My son had a good time. He liked the cars. But it just, I wish we had more soul, more mom and pop businesses, more, and every warehouse that goes in is less room for those things. And I think the community has kind of told you kind of what they're hoping to see, and that zoning is very outdated. And I really feel like I hope that you guys revisit that zoning. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a comment? We'll say that I have met with many of you personally, individually, and had many phone calls and had many emails with you, and we do hear you. We hear your concerns loud and clear. All right. If no one else wants to speak, we will go ahead and move on to the next item, which is the city manager's report. Do we have anything to report? I don't have anything down here.
Yes, Your Honor. I'll give you a couple of updates here. One, I'd just like to thank all of our volunteers from the various organizations for their contributions to a successful air show. A lot of our staff, pretty much all of our staff, worked throughout the weekend to make sure that was a safe event. There was also a lot of adaptability. This was a record-breaking air show with over 80,000 attendees. There were some issues relating to parking, and my understanding from the air show board chairperson that one of the things that they'll do is fold the payment for parking possibly into the admissions tickets next year to kind of speed up the parking. I know there were some delays out on the highway. One of the things that I think that Wright Brothers Aero did very wisely was move the P lot, what's called the P lot, over so that people could enter off of Helke. That modification to parking actually, believe it or not, lessened the delays that might have been, had it been like prior years. And so I just appreciate that group for bringing that in. August 10th, we have Picnic in the Park with our retirees. That's for all of our employees to appreciate them from 11:30 to 1 p.m. at the sports complex. Tomorrow, of course, is National Night Out with our police division. That is 6 to 8 p.m. at the sports complex. So there will be raffles, there will be giveaways. It's a great outreach for our police and firefighters and whole community to come together. If you've driven down Gabriel Street, the top course is on that. We, of course, had full depth reconstruction. That was a $750,000 project. There were a lot of water main breaks that occurred there. Public Service Director Rob Cron got about $400,000 in OPWC funding, half of which was low interest or no interest loan, the other being a grant. Of course, at our next council meeting, we'll have the Vandalia branded RTA bus here for you to see, and we'd like to get a photo opportunity for that. That pretty much concludes my report. One of the things, also we had a lot of work that went in. The air show parade, of course, is a Butler Chamber of Commerce, Vandalia Butler Chamber of Commerce sponsored event. We contributed to that, but it was really good, really successful, and look forward to having our mobile stage back for the next one. That concludes my report. Thank you.
All right. All right, we've already taken care of the boards and commissions earlier. We have no old business, resolutions, ordinances, and their first or second reading, nor do we have any emergency ordinances. And that brings us to council comments. Mr. Wendt.
Thank you, and I just reserved this one comment outside of my report, and that would be just to thank everyone for coming out, for making sure that, you share your positions with council, with staff. We are running through an administrative process whereby my duty as the city manager is, if there's an application for a garage, for anything, is to run that through to the various commissions and boards, and we're required to do that in a somewhat impartial manner. And so we continue to work hard for you to be good stewards and administer those ordinances and advise all the while. So thank you for that opportunity, and it is a privilege to serve, and I like it as a resident here.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Forrest.
Thank you. I would like to excuse Councilman Lewis's absence this evening as he is ill.
Correct.
Also, would like.
We need to vote on that
Oh.
real quick here. Well,
Yes, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
all in favor, say aye.
yeah, you can do it by
All in
consensus.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 6-0.
I'd like to thank staff. Though Friday night, the parade is a chamber event, and it's kind of sad. It's great. We're in the front as council members, and people still have enough energy to wave to us, but we don't get to see everything else that happens behind us. So maybe next year we'll have to consider adding a little more entertainment to our golf carts and our, we're kind of
You wanna
plain
sing
and
or
boring
something?
up
What do you-
there,
what would
yeah.
you like to do?
I'm not quite sure yet, but we need to do something.
Would council like to form a committee to decorate those
Yeah.
the week before? I think that'd be a great activity for you guys.
It's a hard time for staff, we know that. They spend a lot of hours that weekend with the air show and the parade and so forth, so I thank you for that. I had something else to say, but I forgot, so I'm
We can come
done.
back to you.
No, that's all right, thank you, that's it. But I want to thank everybody for being here. We really do appreciate hearing from you. We do need to know what you think, and we do appreciate the new members to our boards and commissions, because you're very important to us. You look at all the situations, and you forward your information of your opinion to us, and it's very, very helpful. So thank you for doing that and stepping up for the volunteer for that. Okay, I'm done, thank you.
All right. Councilman Ayers.
Yes, I just want to shout out to the staff for the city. The parade Friday night, and I attended their show on Saturday, and saw a lot of familiar faces that work at our city building. They're friendly, they're courteous, and I just saw an overwhelming effort to help everybody out in answering questions. So, and I know that's a long weekend for our staff, so thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Councilman Foley.
Just to echo the thanks to city staff for all their work over the air show weekend, especially when the parking situation kind of overwhelmed, I think, the police division on Saturday, but they adapted and made the best of the situation as possible. The second thing I just want to bring up, and I probably should have written a couple things down, but I think the community obviously is got strong opinions about the proposal that's on the table in front of council. And the city manager kind of alluded to it in his statement, and I kind of want to expand on that for just a second, is I just want to caution everybody about what I'm going to call the social media rabbit hole. And, I have a presence on social media. I read a lot of things on social media. I may not necessarily engage in debate on social media because I don't feel personally that's the place to do it. I would much rather have a conversation with somebody over the phone or in person, and I've had many of those conversations with residents that have reached out to me. But the attack on city staff on social media has got to stop. We are a city, I think, that has strong residents and a strong sense of community. And our city staff has a job to do. And, Ms. Holloway, for example, just this evening, during her presentation on the BZA request, her job right now, because she's filling in for the city planner, which is not her normal job, but where she came from, so she's filling that role. She has to make a recommendation based on the code. And when she makes that recommendation, for example, the individuals, the residents tonight that have a request coming up at our next meeting, she makes a recommendation based on her interpretation of the city's zoning codes and state law and what staff is recommending to the BZA or the Planning Commission in this situation. The BZA and the Planning Commission then have a public hearing, listen to everything, and then they make a recommendation to City Council. And then the City Council then makes a determination based on legal opinion, our code, and other things that factor into that. But just because staff makes a recommendation for approval or denial doesn't mean that they personally are vested with that decision. It's they're carrying out their job that's required by the city charter and the Constitution and the state law. So, and there's been times that Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeal goes the opposite direction of city staff. I believe tonight's is a perfect example. BZA's recommendation is to approve the variance. Staff's recommendation was to deny it. So there is that opportunity, and that's just part of the process that Mr. Went spoke to earlier about, everything that's happening with this development on Northwoods, or this proposed development on Northwoods, is going through the steps that it has to go through legally. If staff just outright turns something down from application when it meets our zoning code or may meet our zoning code, it takes on a significant amount of liability for the city. So that's not staff's job to do that individually, and that's why this Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the City Council processes are all in place. But over the past couple weeks, I mean, and I'm not saying everybody, but there are certain individuals on social media that have made this a personal attack on city staff. And I really ask for those, and I will say that there's many people out there that have not engaged in that, and I appreciate that. But I think it's incumbent upon you to kind of shut down the people that are making it personal, because Mr. Went, for example, and anybody up here on council can disagree with me if they would like to, but I would say, you know, I know in the past week, I read a posting questioning his education and experience and commitment to this city. Well, I, for one, can tell you that out of our last 5 city managers, only one has had prior experience as a city manager prior to being city manager here. 1 of 5. The other 4, including Mr. Went, have all served in other capacities at cities and come up and become our city manager. Bruce Zucker was not a city manager before he became the city manager here in Vandalia. Jeff Hoagland was not a city manager before he became a city manager here. Rob Anderson was not a city manager before he became our city manager. John Crucy was the only one that had been a city manager elsewhere before he was appointed city manager here. And then Mr. Went was an assistant city manager before he was appointed by this council. And I think when this type of activity occurs on social media and other people are watching, other communities are watching, developers are watching, people that we might want to come work here are watching, and, you know, we're right now trying to recruit for a city engineer position, and when they see that kind of activity, when residents are making it personal to city staff, it's going to be a challenge to bring people here to work. That's going to be a challenge for our organization. So although, you know, everyone has their right to do what they want on social media, and I, like I said, I think a lot of you have brought up some very valid points on social media. I've read them, but I think there has been a segment that has made this a personal attack on city staff when both Mr. Went and Ms. Holloway are doing nothing more than what they are legally responsible to do and what this council expects them to do. And, you know, this council was unanimous when we appointed Mr. Went city manager. We were unanimous when we gave him his first review less than a year ago, and I still think we're unanimous in the support for his leading the city and bringing about some much-needed change in the organization. So I just wanted to get that out there, and I appreciate those of you that are here tonight and those of you that have reached out and I've spoken with individually over the past couple weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Blakesley.
I'll start off by saying thank you to those who stepped forward to volunteer for our boards and commissions. And we need people like you to help us execute our jobs. And we rely on the boards and commissions, as it's already been stated, that you look toward the codes. You help us to decipher those codes and give us those recommendations. And then there's the citizenry component. And we appreciate all the citizens coming out and telling us their viewpoints. And that's what it's all about. We too are citizens of the same city. We hear you and we feel what you're feeling. Don't think we have a deaf ear. Certainly not. There's a lot of decision-making up here that goes into logical thinking. As Councilman Follick said, there's a lot of code to research. There's a lot of things that go into this decision-making. And it is tough. It is tough to sit here and and look at it logically and keep the emotion out of it. That doesn't mean that we don't have the emotion. Just because we sit here and have a straight face, it's nothing about that. We have emotion too. It is very emotional. And I understand that as well, you know, as a citizenry. But please give us a chance. We will be there.
All right.
We're here for you.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Woods?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
All right. And the only thing I wanted to add is kind of going back to what Councilman Follick was talking about with the social media post. I had this conversation with Mr. Went here probably a week or so ago, and I basically said I have to just stop reading it because it's beyond 50% inaccurate. Most of what you read online is totally inaccurate. So I agree with a lot of things that Councilman Pollack has said, that this is not a personal attack on our staff. They're doing their job. This whole situation is working its way through the process. We have to be calm and let it work itself through. Okay? And again, I appreciate everyone coming. Your comments, very valuable. We appreciate it. It's nice to see how the community has rallied together around this. We appreciate that. Okay? With that, this meeting is adjourned.
Traffic and everything else. I mean, we live in Deerwood. Where are they gonna go? I've been on PCA for years.
Tom, thanks. Thank you.
More people stand around and yell at us.
Thank you.